It's Super Bowl week here, folks, as well as NFL honors tonight. That's right, folks. Tonight we know who will be the MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, and more. Okay, I'm letting you know right now that this is going to be a fairly short episode. Okay, there's not a lot to really talk about. I mean, the combine is still, I think, maybe 2 or 3 weeks away, so we'll have some stuff to talk about in the meantime of that. Okay, of course we're gonna talk about the aftermath of the Super Bowl, and then we'll prepare to get into the series of talking about the off season for everybody. But we do have some things we have to talk about right now, and that is Myles Garrett has officially declared that he wants out of Cleveland. And I mean declared. He doesn't want to be there no more. He does not want to even get a whiff of Cleveland air, okay? Cooper Kupp has been informed that he will be traded this offseason, and we have to talk about the Super Bowl, okay? All of this and more on the 65th episode of the Football Junkies podcast, okay? I am your host with the most, okay? I am your GM who currently is not on a team right now, but don't you worry about it, okay? I am your chief bagrodamus, okay? Anything and everything related to the bag, okay? Most importantly, I am the GM who currently has a few mock drafts that I may put out today, tomorrow, or maybe even Sunday. Don't know yet. Depends on how I'm feeling and depends on what we're going to do with all the other content that we had to talk about, okay? But guess what? I am all these things and more. But most importantly, the most important title that you must remember is I am your host, Kale. You already know how these things are about to go. This intro might be a little bit too long, but guess what? Who really cares about that? Because guess what? We got the Super Bowl on Sunday, okay? The final game of football for this season, okay? You already know how this thing is about to go. On three, 1, 2, 3, let's lock in. All right, folks, let's just get into the meat and potatoes of everything that is going on in the league right now. I'm letting you guys know again, this is going to be a short episode. There's not a lot to talk about. Sure, there's a bunch of speculations about this and that, but we don't really care about speculations. We want facts, okay? And we won't know anything, and we won't have any big moves coming until after the combine or during the combine. So, let's get into everything, all right? I also forgot to mention that tonight they are also announcing the class for the Hall of Fame. So, do I think there's going to be somebody that's going to be in there that everyone doesn't want? Probably, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sterling Sharp finally gets in, Steve Smith finally gets in, and, players of that caliber finally get in. If Sterling Sharp gets in, there's a good chance I might cry because Sterling Sharp was definitely ahead of his time. And for him to, for his career to be cut the way that it was, he definitely could have been regarded just as high as Jerry Rice. If you don't believe me, look at the stats. But let's just get into everything. So Myles Garrett wants out of Cleveland. So I understand that, he was definitely, in limbo about it. I didn't expect for him to just come out and just start the process now. Okay? Not to mention, he's been on a media run basically this entire week. Like, he's been on just about almost every single major radio show, podcast, you name it, he's on there. And they're all asking him the same question. What teams would you be interested in going to? Would you go here? Would you go there? All those different things, okay? So before we get to that point, before we start, throwing out predictions and whatnot, let's just get into the statement that he put out. So here it goes. And I quote, "As a kid dreaming of the NFL, all I focused on was the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl. And that goal fuels me today more than ever. My love for the community of Northeast Ohio and the incredible fan base of the Cleveland Browns has made this one of the toughest decisions of my life. These past 8 years have shaped me into the man that I am today. While I've loved calling this city my home, My desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, I have requested to be traded from the Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett, end quote. Now let's get into the financials, okay? So according to SpotRack, okay, his market value will be 4 years, $137.3 million, okay? That's $34.3 million a year. When we go into the other side, when we get into the financials of what the team will be inheriting, wherever he goes, right? 2025 is $19.8 million, but it's not guaranteed. The same thing with the salary for 2026. It's not guaranteed as well. So this is what I will say. On one hand, yes, I understand where he is coming from. And yes, I understand that he realizes that, hey, listen, this team is not going anywhere. This team is about to go through another hard rebuild again. And that's something that I don't want to be a part of. But on the other hand, if you are Cleveland, you have to make this to happen. Excuse me. And the reason why I say that is because this is going to benefit you in the process of rebuilding. Because right now, you can demand 2 first-round picks. You can't demand 3 because you still have to. The team still has to pay him. You can demand 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett. It's very rare to have a pass rusher or any player in the prime of their years playing this high and they want out. It's very rare. The last time that we can remember of a player like this in a situation like this was probably Khalil Mack. And we all know what happened with that situation. So I say all that to say this. The Browns are in a situation where right now you have to start from the bottom. Okay? You have to tear everything down and start from the nuts and bolts of this foundation. Because right now, you are not going anywhere anytime soon. You have people like Denzel Ward who have already said, and Myles Garrett gets traded, I'm out. You have people like Joel Bitonio who have said, listen, if this team goes through a rebuild, I'm retiring. Players are fed up. They are tired of going through this constant cycle of being a little bit of competitive, maybe having a chance of making it to the playoffs, and then going through a rebuild, and then another rebuild, and then another rebuild. Nobody wants to continue to go through rebuilds. At some point, you have to be competitive, okay? And granted, I understand. The Browns put themselves in this situation because why? You traded for a quarterback that has not done anything since being in Cleveland. The last consistent year that Deshaun Watson had, where, if we're being real here, there were rumblings that people were considering him an MVP his last year with the Texans. That was the last year where you can say this is a top 10 quarterback right here. Outside of that year, he has not done anything. He has not even lived up to the contract, folks. Joe Flacco, old Joe Flacco, nodding off, going to sleep during a game, Joe Flacco made this team more competitive and more dangerous than what Deshaun Watson has ever had. So I say all that to say this. At this point, most likely they're going to lose a large majority of their, and I'm not just talking about because of free agency. No, I'm talking about trades. I think a lot of these players are going to want out. I think they realize that, listen, I'm in the prime of my career. This team is not going anywhere. This team does not have a direction. So there's no point being in a place where they themselves realize that, listen, we're going to have to wait until Deshaun Watson's contract is over in order for us to be somewhat competitive, or at least try to be competitive. Until then, you're in the pit. But at the same time, guess what? Juju was right. The Browns will be the Browns. Now, I think a part that we do have to talk about is what are the best fits for Myles Garrett? Because at this point, we all know that basically almost every single AFC team is probably going to pick up the phone and call the Browns. Okay? Now, some teams may be more serious than others, and there may be other teams that are just, testing the waters, just trying to see exactly, okay, what's the asking price? Would you be willing to take this, or would you be willing to take that? Okay. But I do think one team that nobody is talking about, that I think if he does go to this team, I think it takes them to the next level, and that's the Commanders. And the reason why I say that is because, for one, yes, they do have holes on their team, but they're not as pressing as anybody else's, right? They got their quarterback, they got their receiver. All they really have to do is just fix up the offensive line, probably bring in another productive receiver to go along with Terry McLaurin, and then fix up the defense. That's it. That's not a whole lot of money that you have to allocate. And on top of that, I think that if you take him out of the AFC completely and put him in the NFC, I think you can breathe a little bit easier. Because I'm telling you, if you keep Myles Garrett in the AFC, he is going to wreck you every single matchup. He is never going to let you forget that he is the end all be all when it comes to the Browns. Okay? He's going to show you why I am one of the best Browns defensive players, or probably one of the greatest Browns players of all time. And so you have the Commanders, you have the Eagles, possibly. You even have the Ravens. Those are the only teams that I would say that, they could probably make a move for. But even then, when we look at all of those teams, most likely he would have to take less to be on those teams. Now, the question that I have for Myles Garrett is, would you be willing to take less to be on a really stacked team? Because the Eagles cannot afford to pay you. The Ravens cannot afford to pay you the money that you're looking for. So would you be willing to take less just to be on those teams? That is, I think, something that somebody on Radio Road has to ask Myles Garrett this week, because I think if he answers that question, I think that automatically narrows out at least maybe 50% of teams in the league right now. Because let's be real here. The only playoff teams that everybody really wants to go to is who? The Chiefs, the Bills, the Eagles, and the Ravens. Those four. Everybody else, it's topsy-turvy with them. It all depends on, how they do in free agency, how they do in the draft, and all those different types of things. But those four teams are the four teams that everybody recognizes and say those are the big fish. Those are the big dogs. But if Myles Garrett goes to a team like the Commanders, I think he could use his influence to bring in other players that he's either played with or wants to play with him, and they'll be willing to take less just to be on this team. Because I'm telling you right now, folks, I'm not saying this Commanders team will win a Super Bowl in 3 years or whatever, or be, one of the greatest teams of all time. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is this. They have something in place. The only thing that they was really missing this past season was a defense. A consistent defense and a consistent pass rush. If you get someone like a Myles Garrett, who, we saw him being moved everywhere on the line. You saw him in the middle. You saw him at end. You saw him everywhere. If you get someone like a Myles Garrett on that team, it's going to be problems. He is going to create relentless pressure on teams. But let's just get into another player that we have to talk about, and that is Cooper Kupp. Now, this one is a little bit more complicated only because last year, around the trade deadline, there were rumors going around that, the Rams were making Cooper Kupp available for the right price. And so, those things died down. And then not too long ago, we were, told by Cooper Kupp himself that the Rams told him that he will be traded this offseason. He will be traded. That's what they told him. So let's get into the quote that he put out, and then we'll, go a little bit deeper into our takes and whatnot. So this is what he says, and I quote, "I was informed that the team will be seeking a trade immediately and will be working with me and my family to find the right place to continue competing for championships. I don't agree with the decision, always believed it was going to begin and end in LA. Still, if there's what I have learned over the years, there are so many things that are out of your control, but it's how you respond to these things that you will look back on and remember. I have taken so much pride in playing alongside my teammates for the LA community, so thank you for embracing my family and making this such a special place for us. 2024 began with one of the best training camps of my career. Preparations start now for 2025. Highly motivated, as healthy as ever, and looking forward to playing elite football for years to come. Love you guys, but coming for it all, end quote. Now, when we look at the financials, okay, according to SpotRack, shout out to them, Cooper Kupp's market value is a 2-year, $21.9 million deal. That's only $11 million a year, okay? Now, when we look at the financials for what the team will be inheriting, it's $20 million, right? When you look at that $20 million, you're probably thinking, "Oh man, that's a whole lot of money." No, it's not actually. $5 million of that $20 million is only guaranteed. In 2026, which is only $19.8 million, that money is not guaranteed at all. So all in all, if a team does make a trade for Cooper Kupp, they're not inheriting a lot of money. Most likely you probably will have to give him an extension or do some type of restructure to his deal. Okay? Now my only problem with this is Cooper Kupp is a pillar for the Rams. Okay? And this is somebody who, in my mind, is a one helmet guy. It's very rare to have somebody on your team who is a one helmet guy. And when you have a one helmet guy, you have to make sure that you keep them a one helmet guy. I don't care if you have to do a bunch of restructures. I don't care if you have to move some money around. You have to make sure that you keep that person because they play such a pivotal role on the team. I just don't like the decision all in all, simply because Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp were pillars for this team. They have been with this team through the ups and downs, when they were competitive, when they weren't competitive, and when they even won the championship. The least that you could do for someone like a Cooper Kupp is to allow him to make the decision for himself if he wants to continue to play with the Rams or if he just wants to walk away. You give him that choice, not you make that choice for him. And granted, I understand they're trying to make some moves. They're trying to, create as much cap space as they possibly can because they want to retool and, help Matthew Stafford out and possibly try to make, one more big run. And I get all that. But at the end of the day, Cooper Kupp plays a phenomenal role in this team. And I understand that there are people that are saying, well, he hasn't been healthy in a while, since he won the Triple Crown and whatnot. Okay, I understand that. That's fine. But the fact of the matter is, you cannot deny this man's greatness. This man is still competitive and he is still a dog on this field. You cannot look down on someone like a Cooper Kupp because the minute that you do, Cooper Kupp is going to mess you up. Okay? He's great when it comes to blocking. He's a really good route runner. He's able to take away a lot of the attention away from other receivers. Because why? Cooper Kupp is still that guy. I don't care what anyone says. So Rams, I would really think about, really getting Cooper Kupp away. I really would. Even if it means that you guys have to do a restructure, you move some money around, okay, fine, just do that. But you got to keep Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp has been loyal to this team through and through. The least that you can do is keep him and let him end his career with the Rams. Now, am I saying that he still has, 3 more elite years? No. I would say at best he probably has maybe 2 years. And that's just me being very generous. I think at best he has 2 years. And then after those 2 years, then you have to do some further examination at this point. Now, when we look at, best fits for him, you're going to have the Ravens, you're going to have the Chiefs, you're going to have the Eagles, you're going to have the Bills, you're going to have the Steelers. You're going to have a whole bunch of teams. Any team that gets Cooper Kupp is going to benefit because he doesn't have to play the wide receiver 1 role or the 2. He could be the 3 option and be a dangerous 3 option if we're being real here. Not to mention, as I just said, he's a really good blocker as well. So you have someone that's like 6'2", close to 6'3", who can slice and dice when it comes to the route running, who's able to take away, the attention from other receivers and other offensive players. Come on. Why wouldn't you want that on your team? Not to mention, the team could probably get Cooper Kupp for maybe a 3rd, maybe a 4th round pick at best. The Rams cannot demand a 1st round pick for Cooper Kupp. I'm sorry. If you give a 1st round pick for Cooper Kupp, you are delusional. Okay? I wouldn't even be surprised if he wanted to go to the Chiefs. Because even with his deal, his current deal right now, it's a lot easier to work with compared to this, this big deal that still has like 3 years left, and there's large base salaries and dead cap hits and all those different types of things. So I say all that to say this: do I think he's going to be traded? Yes, but part of me believes I think they will have a conversation, and I think they'll be like, you know what? I think we'll just let you just play the rest of this deal out, and then once the deal is over, then we'll revisit conversations. And if you still want to play, we'll grant you a release, or we'll trade you wherever you want to go, or whatever the case may be. Okay, that's the least that you can do for someone like a Cooper Kupp. Now let's get into the Super Bowl. Okay, yes, the Super Bowl. Yes, do I really want to watch the Super Bowl? No, not really, because it's the Chiefs, man. I'm tired of seeing the Chiefs in the playoffs. I want to see somebody different. I want to see, Josh Allen in the Super Bowl, or Lamar Jackson, or Jaden Daniels, or whomever. Anybody else than the Chiefs. Because I am tired of seeing that red and yellow confetti fall down. I am tired of seeing them hold up the Lombardi. Because, man, oh man, if they win this Super Bowl, do you know what's going to happen? People are going to be like, oh man, Patrick Mahomes is better than Tom Brady. No, he is not. By far, he is not. Okay? Because guess what? And somebody asked him about this when they interviewed him a few days ago. What is the one game that you regret? And he said that Super Bowl when he faced Tom Brady, and Tom Brady was BTA, all right? Dismantled that Chiefs team. They didn't know what to do with themselves after that. But let's get into some junky nuggets that definitely caught my attention. So the Eagles have allowed a 35.5 conversion rate percentage on third downs, which is the third lowest in the league, okay? Now let's go a little bit deeper, okay? On 46 third downs in the playoffs, the Eagles have allowed 20 conversions, which is at 43.5%. So you already know this Eagles defense is really good when they need to be, especially on third downs. They pride themselves on making that big stop on third downs. So expect for that to happen multiple times in this game. This game is going to be back and forth. This is not going to be a game where it's going to be one-sided from start to finish. No, this is going to be a game where the Eagles are not going to leave no stone unturned. They are going to try to win as best as they can, okay? Now let's go a little bit deeper with the Eagles, okay? In their last Super Bowl matchup, Lane Johnson was the only Eagles offensive lineman to not allow a single pressure out of 42 pass blocks, okay? Chris Jones has generated only one pressure out of 36 pass rushes against the Eagles in their last Super Bowl matchup, which is the third lowest pressure rate in any postseason game since 2018, which is at 2.8%. The Eagles, in some ways, is the Chiefs' kryptonite. In some ways. I'm not saying completely, but I'm saying in some ways. They know how to minimize the effect of Chris Jones, which is significant. Because we all know Spags is going to be blitzing. We all know that Spags is going to send corner blitz. He's going to send just a variety of different types of blitzes, okay? He's going to move Chris Jones around. Chris Jones may be in the middle one play, then he'll be at the end, and he'll be against Jordan Mailata. He's just going to be everywhere. So you have to make sure that you keep your eye on Chris Jones, okay? On 37 carries this postseason, Saquon has gained 344 yards, which is 9.3 yards per carry. Expect for Saquon Barkley at some point in this game to have a big run. Now, I'm not saying from the start of the game to the end of the game, he's just going to have, a big run every single time he gets the ball. No, but what I am saying is this. At some point, that defense is going to get tired and Saquon Barkley is going to feast. But the number one thing I want people to remember is that the Eagles have to play their own game. Don't try to do what the Bills did. Every single time they tried to play like the Chiefs, guess what happened? They lost. You have to run the ball successfully against the Chiefs. If you control the time of possession, if you keep Patrick Mahomes out of rhythm, guess what? You have a better chance at winning compared to trying to go toe-to-toe, blow for blow with this guy. You're not going to do that. This is not how this offense is built. This offense is built for the run. Okay? If you run the ball successfully, if you convert on your third downs, if you are able to put points on the board, you have a fighting chance. But the minute that you give Patrick Mahomes a little bit of wiggle room, I'm telling you, he is going to make you pay for it. He's done it every single time. But this is the last Junkies nugget that I want to leave for you guys. I really want you guys to keep your eye on. When targeting Dallas Goedert on third down, Jalen Hurts has completed 13 out of 14 passes for 240 yards. So expect for Jalen Hurts to use just about anybody and everybody. From Dallas Goedert to A.J. Brown to Devontae Smith. He is going to use everybody at his arsenal because why? This is an all hands on deck type of game. This is not someone having a stellar game. No, this is going to be a team effort win, okay? Am I going to give out a score prediction? No. I'm not doing that. I'm not putting myself through that. But I'm going to end this episode here. If you guys like what you are listening, please like, share, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, download the episodes, do anything and everything that you can with these episodes so we can continue to allow more football junkies to listen and get their football fix, okay? We are available on all streaming platforms that you can listen to podcasts on, whether it be on RSS feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more, okay? For my YouTube people, Football Junkies Pod, okay? Football Junkies Pod. We put out the episode for the audio listeners on the streaming platforms at the same time that we do for the YouTube, okay? When you go on the YouTube, we have a link tree. The link tree will take you anywhere and everywhere that we have Football Junkies content, whether it be the TikTok or the Twitter or the Instagram, wherever. It's on there on the link tree, okay? Now, for my Twitter people, GM Kale, okay? GM Kale, Kaile. You follow me on there. That's where I put out all the hot takes, mock drafts. Maybe I'll, go back and forth with a few people on their mock drafts and their opinions on certain things. All those different types of stuff, okay? Follow me over there. For my Instagram people, Football_Junkies Pod, okay? Football_Junkies Pod. Junkies Pod is not what? It is together, not spaced, okay? It is together, not spaced, okay? Blue Sky, GM Kale, all right? Follow me on there, GM Kale. It's the same thing with the Twitter as well. TikTok, Football Junkies Pod, okay? Football Junkies Pod. I just put out a mock drafts. Well, actually, no, 2 mock drafts. I put them out for yesterday, okay? I'm going to put out 2 more mock drafts for today, okay? Stay tuned. Stay tuned because we still have a lot to talk about with the draft and the combine and all those different types of things, okay? So, as always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Make sure that you guys watch the Super Bowl, okay? Because I'm going to be doing it as well. Don't drink and drive, okay? Have a good time. Do all those good things and more. This is your GM, Kale, signing out. Peace and love.